what we're looking at right here is entirely municipal property. None of this was planted by any of the homeowners around. You can see the yard right next to it is just straight grass.
Yeah.
But then, we've got this little sanctuary of diversity that the city maintains, and the homeowners still get to benefit off of.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I'm Mike with Mike's in the Garden, here with Sam from Central Florida Abundance. What's going on, Sam?
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, y'all? Thanks for tuning in. We got a fun one this week, talking more about my favorite subject, Florida natives, and how we use them intelligently in our municipal landscaping. This may tie back into our city planning series. We talked a lot about different areas that are underutilized as far as the plants that are incorporated into them. We looked at retention ponds. We looked at the medians, and then we looked at the sidewalks that are on those steep grades and some of the erosion that can happen. So today I took a walk around a road that's in my city, and the city took it upon themselves to make this. I mean, it's not fully native, but it definitely it definitely utilizes the native species. And what this all is, I'm going to bring it up now. It's my favorite shot that I got today. This is a ditch on the side of like a 2-lane, pretty busy street. Lots of runoff. And so it's a wet area, but it's also an area that has some steep slopes and gets lots of water, but then also gets very dry for long periods of time. And so you can see what we're looking at right here. This is a pond cypress, and then we've got some saw palmettos, and then I think this may just be a cherry laurel. There's lots of just not typical landscape trees in this, crepe myrtles. You can see right here though, there's the oak tree, and this is a ditch. We're gonna look more at the ditch in a second. This is more of it from my side of the road, but you can see the shade that has just been created on the sidewalk from having all these trees here. And will these trees tear up the sidewalk? I can see that question in people's minds. Probably. Honestly, some of these trees are questionably planted because they're directly under the power lines, and I don't know how that's going to work long term. But they could have easily been on the other side of this ditch over here and not been in the power lines. But you can see they, even incorporated this. This is a bench, just a rock bench, sitting here in the shade. And so this is a little walk I did through one of the ditches. You see there's a lot of rock in here, but lots of grasses, lots of, wide rooted plants on the slopes. The centers are maintained open, and I don't know if we'll see it, but there is irrigation actually on all these plants because I live in a very dry area, and even the ditches stay very dry for a good portion of the year. Here's another one of the benches, and you can see just Fakahatchee grass all around it. This grass is cut. I did see some landscapers out there today mulching some of the grasses, but they were leaving it all where it went. But you don't have to spray for weeds in this. You're not coming to mow it every week to keep it, nice and neat for the people who are waiting here for their bus. Uh, and I mean, the people waiting to probably don't care, but it does create habitat for, small birds and insects. And, maybe people will notice that while they're sitting down. Got another one of the ditches here. And this is how you eliminate erosion. This is diverse, multi-layered plantings and just done well.
Yeah.
You can see here's one of the areas where the water comes in off the street. And they even took the extra step to slow down the erosion. They have these large rocks all through this ditch, and especially accumulated where the water comes in to break up that direct flow, redirect it into different directions and slow it down so it's not, blasting out the walls of this ditch.
So odd choice of rocks. I'm curious how they landed with that. I mean, it almost looks like fossilized tree trunk or something. But actually, you know what it almost looks like is this one here at the end of the runoff there. It's like they cleaned out the concrete truck, and that was like what was left over from the concrete. Possibly.
Now that, yeah, I would believe that. Another thing, I know we get a lot of rocks from all the phosphate mines. I forget what kind of rock that it is typically. I don't know if it's limestone or what, but you can see they're all over here. But also in this shot, you can see where they've been cutting. This is mully grass. They've been cutting them and then just leaving all the residue here. And all the other brown is from the leaves of the trees that fell in the winter. And so it's just self-mulching itself. But then, I mean, it does, you see, here's a sprinkler right here. But then this is a drainage pipe. And so the water level does actually get pretty high in some intense rainfall events. This whole ditch will have a foot of water in it. So these plants were all selected, I assume, intelligently that, they're all going to be able to handle those conditions, occasional inundation. And then up here on the drier bits, this is a curb here next to the sidewalk. There's not really going to be much water running across this because there's, no way for the water to get there. So unless the rain falls on it, there's no water going through there. So in these really dry areas, they've done tons of sunshine mimosa. And it's filled in beautifully, but obviously I'm more interested in the mulch that's been put down on the ground than the pretty flowers. But then we do end on the pretty flowers. That's good. We can see this mat that the mimosa makes.
Yeah.
We talk about perennial peanut, and it's sometimes hit or miss. But if you got a dry spot and no worry about the pipes or septic systems underneath, you just throw this in. Now these roots, I mean, they can get 5 or 6 feet down into the soil, and so if there's water anywhere, they're going to find it. And you can see how it looks.
Sunshine mimosa, is it drought tolerant or is it
extremely?
Okay.
Yeah, it's extremely drought tolerant because of how deep. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not. It will disappear a little bit in the winter. It doesn't really like the cold, and it always comes back. It's not something that's going to get killed by any freeze, but it is less vigorous and sometimes can allow other things to come through it in the winter. What I've noticed is that they do go out and they'll hand weed through here. They have people. They do use weed eaters, so like very only a little bit that I've seen, because I do drive by here often. And usually they have crews of people set up with tents, and then they're just under them pulling weeds all day.
Hmm.
Which, you know, doesn't sound like the funnest job, but it probably beats spraying poison all day. That would be the counterpart of that is somebody going out with a sprayer and just dumping herbicides on it and then, getting all that residue. So,
So this is maintained by like a volunteer group, or is that the city
it's
that's actually out there doing
it is the city. And I think the city, they do have some paid people that come and maintain this. But I think also they have some volunteers, but also I've seen, the sheriff's prisoners out here, doing community work out. And this is probably a nicer road to do weeding on than many of them that you would encounter around here, just because of the shade.
Yeah.
And really, like, when you have this dense of plantings, you just have less weeds. Like this, what we're looking at right here is entirely municipal property. None of this was planted by any of the homeowners around. You can see the yard right next to it is just straight grass.
Yeah.
But then, we've got this little sanctuary of diversity that the city maintains, and the homeowners still get to benefit off of.
Sure.
I think I took this picture specifically because this is a crepe myrtle. This is actually like 3 crepe myrtles. And I think it looks beautiful surrounded by saw palmettos. If we took every crepe myrtle in Florida and just planted 3 saw palmettos around it, I'd be happy. I'd stop complaining about them.
Okay.
Maybe that's the guerrilla gardening, for every crepe myrtle we see, we throw in a saw palmetto. If anybody can get me them for cheap, drop me a comment. Usually they're a little pricey. This is more.
I have one of mine flowering right now with about 1,000 love bugs on it. And I'm not sure how easy or hard they are to propagate, or if they even will.
They're easy.
Like that,
they're just extremely slow. Like they grow extremely slowly. It'll take 30 years before it, has any, like maybe it'll be 2 feet tall in 30 years. Yours is some kind of weird. I'm still on the fence on what you got there, but
well, it's got the flower. I mean, it's got the saw palmetto flower, so I mean, it could be some hybridized. It is right under a gutter, so
yeah, maybe you're just. I mean, you do feed it. Typically, people don't fertilize their saw palmettos.
Yeah, I mean, there's constantly wasps have been living on it, so maybe they protect it, or who knows? I don't know. We'll have to get a study done.
I mean, so I would say this planting was probably done 8 to 10 years ago.
Okay.
And everything, I'm sure, was planted very large. And so these were probably 3 or 7 gallon saw palmettos when they were planted. And then like the cypress was planted along the same time. That was probably planted in 15 gallons. These, I think, I've never seen them flower, but I think they're the orchid tree. Either that or they're the eastern, or not eastern red bud, but the like red bud that's only called that because the leaves come out red and then turn orange. But they only do that if you make them into a bush, and these were all treed. But right here is actually a red maple, which is a hugely underutilized tree. I see a lot of neighborhoods, they plant, like the pre-built neighborhoods, they'll plant a live oak in the front of everybody's house. And it's usually like, most of these houses don't have much of a yard. So the live oak's like 15 feet away from the house. And, you know, it's tiny. And so that seems fine. But in reality, that's going to be a huge problem if that tree survives and grows because it's going to have, you know, a 60-foot wide canopy that's going to be straight over your roof. But a great substitution would be red maples. This is a tree that will maybe get 30 feet tall and not even 30 feet wide. It stays, you know, very uniform growth habit. It grows a lot quicker than oaks. It does prefer wetter soils, and that's why the ditches are such a great place for it. But if your yard's on irrigation, and really your live oak needs wetter soils too. So either way, you're going to have to water it. Oh, here we go. So right here, against the road, they were just cut. You can see how they just cut all that grass. And actually, they were like out cutting when I was there. They must have just been on lunch because their hedge trimmers were there. And this is a pretty good tool. This is your, you know, typical reciprocating hedge trimmer. And you can just go through and, you know, whack the tops off these grasses. Ecologically, I wouldn't, with mully grass, I probably wouldn't chop it as much as they do, especially right now. I mean, we just came out of the winter. It hasn't rained in like 4 years. You know, this grass probably would have been fine. But, you know, the city's got a city. They got to pay people to do things, even if no things need to be done.
We gotta look busy. Justify those property taxes.
It's like, oh yeah. Well, nobody's touched that road for a while, so hopefully it doesn't become too stable because then they'll come rip it out and just replant it and be like, oh well, there wasn't enough work to be done, so something was wrong. No, but it is good that they're leaving all the material at least because it is so dry. And so, you know, all of the nutrients that those grasses absorbed now go onto the top layer of the soil. And those grasses will reabsorb them and fill in that space in no time. This was just in a ditch. See, you couldn't tell me that I was on a sidewalk in this picture if the road wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, I got trees in my line of sight. There's trees in the distance. It's a magnolia. You see, this cypress is actually planted on the correct side of the ditch and is not underneath the power lines. Why they didn't all end up like that, I have no idea. And then here's another shot of that non-native. Oh, actually, I don't even think I saw the first shot of it. This is a non-native fountain grass, and it did not survive the winter. We can actually go back. I jump real quick. There it is. And you can even see there's dune sunflower that has survived and is just coming right back.
Yeah.
Hopefully they decide, you know, not to waste the money to replant the fountain grass, and they just throw in more Fakahatchee or mully grass. I thought I had one shot because in one of these little oh, here it is, the inn, they have dune sunflower, and it did take damage from the freeze. It's just now starting to come back. But my goodness, is it coming back in force? This was pretty much flowering all last year, and they do the craziest thing to it. They prune it into a box hedge. I've never seen anybody do this with dune sunflower, but it gets like maybe 2 feet tall, and they'll just keep it straight, you know, straight corners, but it still flowers. It's still green, you know. It's just one of those extra work things, but I don't even mind because it's still feeding, you know, our insects. It's still feeding the pollinators. It's feeding the soil, and makes this neighborhood a whole lot more beautiful, really. Every time I drive down this road, it's just pleasant. So I get to look around and be like, yeah, why isn't every road like this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this really is like the model. It's the perfect example of what can be and should be done for the appropriate climate. But this is like, um, I mean, Sam, this could be the slideshow to like bring to city hall meetings if one chooses to take their time up with that and really present this and say, how much are you spending on lawn maintenance per year versus, yeah, we had the reciprocating saw out there, and I'm sure you said the weed eater, and you got manpower, but I mean, doesn't this increase the property value because it makes the street look that much nicer? And you know what I mean? Like,
I would imagine, and also
yeah,
longevity of it, because if you can imagine anybody, all y'all out there, your typical ditch on the side of a road, it's most likely going to be, attempting to be turf grass as far down as it can be. And then eventually it'll just turn to dirt or be turf grass the whole way down if it's a, dry area and doesn't get a lot of water. But then when you have a rain event, you end up with a ton of erosion. You get gullies through this because the turf grass just, isn't maintaining it. The city has to constantly come back and restructure the ditches. They have to constantly redig the ditches. I've seen neighborhoods that have had the ditches redug 2 or 3 times in 5 years, and that's got to cost so much money. And I mean, you could redig these ditches, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't need to. That's the point is,
yeah,
they were designed in a way to last. They're going to, capture the runoff water, filter it actually at, like our turf grass ditches and retaining ponds don't actually filter much of the contaminants because there's no complex root systems. There's so many different plants in here that can absorb different, properties that a lot less of those, harsh chemicals from the road are going to be getting into the soil. Now, I would eat anything that came out of this ditch, but that's not what it's for. It's infrastructure. And what it will do is make anything that you grow in your yard on the other side of this ditch way more protected from all of the pollution of this road. And so, the city has helped itself by, you know, making a longer lasting, and I don't know if you could sell a city on saying, oh, well, this will last forever, because then they'll be like, well, how do we pay our friends that we have all the contracts for then if, there won't be any work to do? Uh, but, you know, I assume I would say the maintenance costs are less necessarily because it's probably more labor hours, but the impacts on the workers, I would say, is a lot less. Uh, you know, you have these beds, they can focus on one area. And I mean, I've never worked on it, but I've weeded a lot of beds, and it's something that you feel accomplished about when you're done. You can look at it and be like, oh, wow, this bed's clean. And the other thing about these beds is that they grow throughout the year. It's not your typical landscaping where, like, it's just looks the same all the time. People that take care of these beds can see them grow and mature and, go through their seasonal shifts throughout the year. So hopefully they're, taking some pride in that. I said I've seen some of the prisoner crews come out here and do hand weeding. I mean, I don't know, but I hope, and maybe it's too much to hope for, but maybe someday there could be education. And, while they're out doing these seemingly meaningless community service tech, or, tasks, they feel like they're just pulling weeds, but, they could be learning about the native plants that are here and the functions that they provide for the ecosystem, and anything to open people's eyes and get them thinking a little bit more deeply about the natural world. And this is definitely a stepping stone. When you just shove it right in front of their face and force them to deal with it, they're going to have to hopefully learn something.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know that I really would do this, but I mean, I guess if I had, a landscape company or, a food forest installation company, something like that, that maybe I would present this at least to my local city municipality and see what the feedback is like. Um,
Yeah, you'll definitely need to gather some more information. I mean,
yeah,
what I would do, I mean, with this road in my area, and if anybody lives in Polk County, come on out to Auburndale and bother the city commissioners, ask them what's going on. But finding out, you know, exactly what they put into uh, taking care of this and what the general feel is, because this was done, I know, by our previous city mayor, and nothing. I mean, I will say our city does use natives in landscaping, but nothing on this level. Typically I'm seeing like traditional landscaping techniques, straight lines of plants, all uniform, same species, uh, but they're just native species, which I'm like, this still doesn't really. I mean, it's a little bit better, but this is the ideal. This is what we need: diverse, multi-layered plantings. Um, so if it's Palaca Aka Avenue, if you're around, you can come. People call it PK Ave. Come take a drive and enjoy the beautiful natives. Um, Maybe you'll see me walking down the sidewalk.
nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. That was very interesting and it's got the brain moving a little bit. So
That's what we want to do.
yeah,
Just
it
plant
is.
seeds.
That's it. Physically, mentally, spiritually. I think I'm sure there's more, but
I didn't plant any physical seeds today. I was supposed to, but I forgot. So I had to get that one in there so I could say at least I planted one seed.
yeah, there you go. Awesome. Well, Sam, another great episode. Tell everybody where they can find more of you and your consulting services.
Absolutely. If you want your yard to look a little bit more like the ditches in my neighborhood, uh, contact Central Florida Abundance. Reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, or shoot me an email, and we'll set up a consultation and we'll see what we can do for your yard. I do offer full installation and maintenance services. So whatever you need, we'll make it happen.
Excellent. And you can follow me at Mike's in the Garden, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble. Sure, there's some other ones there. Twitter X, if you're an Elon fan. But you can also get yourself a shirt. This is the top invasive species of Florida. We've got Burmese pythons, New York land developers. I definitely asked 100 people, 1,000 people their opinion. That this wasn't something I just made up on my own. So you can get yourself one of those shirts at the link below.
As a Floridian, I approve that message.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm from Massachusetts, but I came down way before all of this. So don't at me, bro, as they say.